As technology changes, the way that we report, collect and present the news is changing constantly. The increased amount of data in the world gives us some great opportunities to tell some news stories, to show more information than was ever possible before, and in fact make it easier for people to become better informed. But it does also present some really serious challenges about how we collect the information, how we store the information, and how again we present it to the end users.
We get information from more sources than ever before, like citizen journalists. We journalists need to be able to cope with this amount of data. Is a tool that provides us with all the background information at a quick glance.
There are stories that are actually really hard to follow. So Storyline allows you to follow the story and clearly mapping the story out to see how it pans out and see the developments of it.
The field of journalism is constantly evolving, and whereas several decades ago print journalism was the pinnacle, these days technological advances mean that digital journalism is on the rise. There are opportunities through social media and through different avenues that we can now incorporate into journalism. The other important thing about it is that the editorial landscape is different. You don't just have traditional reporters, you have journalists who are out in the field, you also have citizen journalists, and you have bloggers. And citizen journalists and bloggers are a lot more legitimized now, especially following things like the Arab Spring, where back then a journalist couldn't travel into that region, so therefore citizen journalists provided colour on the ground.
Outlandish has been working with BBC News Labs to create a range of tools that make it really easy to author rich, data-driven stories that users can interact with in new ways. The Storyliner tool uses the BBC's Storylines ontology to model stories in a way that can be shared and easily reported. Storylines are a series of sub-events and sub-components which represent a particular telling of a story. They've got an attribution, so two different people might tell the same story in the same way, in different ways, even though they use the same events. Events have a time and a place, and unlike storylines, they don't have an attribution. They're designed to be a representation of a real-world thing that did occur and that everybody can agree on the details of.
At Outlandish, we build tools to enable people to author data-rich information with a fluid and rich interfaces, which allows them to do it faster and better.
And I feel that the building and the construction of these news stories are so fast, and they often rely on previous knowledge that we are presumed to know, but often or not we might have missed certain aspects of a news story. When USAC approached Outlandish to make a programme to help journalists develop stories at a fast pace, Storylines is created so a journalist can go in, find out about the story, pick things that are relevant for their story, and then populate their story as a background knowledge, just so that it allows them to make these stories a lot quicker, more accurate, and present that to the end user to get quite a lot of background knowledge on articles. That's that bit.